I think it's important to understand that when you talk about price controls, you have the quality of the goods and services will deteriorate. And that's because people do less when they're paid less, and higher quality is more costly than lower quality. And as you mentioned, in 71, when Nixon issued those price and wage controls, the interesting thing about that, Dunnigan, is that inflation was running at 4%. And right now, even measured by the understated CPI, we're at basically 7%. And, I think the chances of that happening, I think, are actually fairly high because you have really no palatable alternatives for the current administration. If they let inflation roar, they're not going to get reelected. And when you realize that really the only way to combat this is to raise the federal funds rate. As an example, currently the federal funds rate is at 0.25% or somewhere in that neighborhood. And with inflation, let's just call it the understated CPI at 6.8%, even though we've talked that, many times you have John Williams on your show that it's actually closer to 15% right now, factored the way it used to be. But if we take that 6.8% that we see currently on the CPI, they would have to raise the federal funds rate by about 700 basis points. I mean, that's not going to happen. And what it will do will blow up the economy. So they won't get reelected there either. So the path of least resistance, in my opinion, would be price controls. And as you are speaking of, the problem that a lot of economists will often talk about is, like you said, the catch-up inflation that happens when they release the price controls and the prices skyrocket. But I don't know exactly how it could possibly affect a straight-up commodity like precious metals. But when you talk about goods that are being produced, if the cost of what you are producing goes up, yet, and you're buying it globally, whatever that component may be, but you aren't allowed to raise the prices, not only do you have a shortage because fewer people are producing, but you also end up with lower quality. And I think it will only exacerbate the current supply chain shortages. As it would affect the precious metals industry, that is, I believe, how it would happen. It would, or how it would actually play out. It would affect what is already a very, very tenuous supply chain. And, I've been talking about that for a long time. Right now, it's as tough as I've seen it ever, right now. And it's just like this first week. We talked about the UK Mint as an example, a prime example. They ran out of silver blanks weeks ago, and, they still haven't delivered what we bought 2 months ago from them. Right now, COVID has inflicted the Austrian mint, and heaven only knows when we're going to start getting shipments out of that mint once again. We're seeing difficulty getting product to levels that I've never experienced before in running the company. And if you start to enact price controls throughout the whole system, it will only exacerbate what is already serious supply chain issues. So, but I do think that the likelihood of that happening is not so unrealistic, because it's the path of least resistance for sure, rather than you go back to 1980 and Paul Volcker raised interest rates to 20%. That killed the inflation. It's dead in its tracks, but it would also blow up the economy to the nth degree if we tried to raise interest rates above 7% right now, which would only slightly give a positive rate of return in real terms, with inflation running slightly below 7% by the CPI measurements. Even at 7%, we would be negative real in terms of what the real rate of inflation is, but slightly positive by 20 basis points compared to the CPI. But that's really the only way to combat it. And so I think both of those options will guarantee that the Democratic Party is not reelected in mass, as it would blow up the economy by raising rates. And inflation is already getting difficult. They let it run unchecked, and people will just grab their pitchforks and torches and head out into the streets. So wage and price controls, to me, would be the path of least resistance. Almost everything that we have in silver is on its way in. We've sold out of everything. I mean, we have some product, but it's as dire of a situation as I've seen in 2 years in terms of immediate availability for large orders.
Before we continue, help us clicking that YouTube like button and subscribe now to our channel. This shows the algorithm that you valued this information. And it helps us spread that message. Sharing is caring. And now, let's continue.
I have bad news for you. If you're not rich by now, you're screwed. And if you're in debt, you're even double screwed. How so, you might wonder? Well, the sad truth is that you're working your whole life to make someone else rich. The mega corporations, the banks, the politicians, everyone is getting richer. They get your money. And what is even worse, they get your time, they get your life. You are not even in a rat race, you're in a financial prison. But what could a solution for you look like? Honestly, I don't know, but I know what a solution for me would look like. It's very simple. I use whatever money I have and I multiply it with 1,000. This could make my life much easier and probably yours as well. If you have $1,000 available and multiply this with 1,000, I believe that this could solve some financial issue for the one or the other. Of course, if you're ugly, you would have to multiply it with much more than 1,000. My name is Markus Dahn, and this is what I decided to do. I decided to 1000x my money. This is not a joke. I know what you may be thinking. What is this guy talking about? How should this work? This is not possible. Well, I made a detailed video where I laid out my plan. And some clever folks might even want to look at this plan and copy it and do exactly what I do. This is just a little hint on the side. You have two options. You leave, you forget what you have seen. You do whatever you're doing and you hope that somehow you get some other results. Good luck with that. Or you click the link below the video. You enter your email address because I'm not showing this to everybody. You at least watch my video on how I plan to 1000x my money. The choice is yours. Make the right choice. Join me. See what a different future you could have. See at least how I intend, how I plan to do the 1000x. So click on the link below, enter your email address, and I see you on the other side. Your Markus Dahn.